Hello, beautiful moms and entrepreneurs. My name is Charisse Walker, and I'm your host of the Unbreakable Mompreneurs podcast. This is a place where we come together to learn, grow, and inspire. So sit back, relax, and let's get started. Hello, Unbreakable Mompreneurs. Have you ever thought about starting up your own course or becoming a coach or doing something like that? And you're like, where do I start? I don't know how. Or you've tried and it hasn't worked. Well, today's your day because we have Catrina Mitchum and she helps with course creation. So without further ado, Catrina, why don't you introduce yourself to our audience?
Sure. Thanks, Charisse. Thanks for having me. I introduce myself as a recovering academic and learning experience designer because I take all the things that got me into higher ed, right? So for me, it was about breaking down barriers to learning for the people that needed it the most, right? The people that had not been served properly by formal education. So I take all those things and now I bring it to the online business world because I went to get out of higher education and I took a course and it was terrible. And the more people I talked to, the more I heard everybody had that experience. Everybody had bought a course that was miserable, that they didn't finish, that they regretted buying. And as a business owner, that's not a good thing, right? You want people to be successful in your courses, but there's a lot of misinformation about what a course is in the online business world.
Oh, amen. Because I mean, you're speaking to someone who used to run colleges and open colleges and taught forever. And I used to think that that was the only way. We talked right before this, university was the only way. And then I started teaching the proprietary education, and then that industry was almost obliterated. And so now you see this mentorship. And I see courses that are anywhere from $7 to you name it, right? And I've spent as much as 25,000 multiple times on courses. And my 25,000, some of them were horrible. Like some phenomenal. She should have charged $1 million and still it wouldn't be enough because of all the stuff that she offers. But then you have these other ones that didn't even have, like they had this one worksheet for a 30-day plan, and you're supposed to go through that. And that was it for 25. And you're like, oh my gosh. And with those, it's like, I met great people, so they're my most expensive friends that I have, is what I call them. But the course, it was non-existent, and it was just horrible. And so I actually, when I've started, because I've started coaching as well, that I was so petrified, and I was scared to launch because I didn't want to have the reputation of these wretched $100,000 programs. And yet the $7 people don't finish because there's no skin in the game. It's not a lot. Mm-hmm. So what is your advice to somebody that's planning to become a coach?
If you're planning to become a coach and you want to have something group, right? Because not everybody that does coaching does group things, but if you are looking to do something groupish, I always recommend starting one with validating the idea first, right? I think that's something we don't talk about a lot because I talk to a lot of folks who are really invested in creating this course, but they never actually found out if somebody was willing to buy it, right? And so that's kind of like the other problem that people have. So validating it, but also starting with goals, like create goals for the course, concrete ones. And you could even use SMART goals, right, as a framework to say, okay, well, what are they going to be able to do when they're done? And then from those goals, work backwards for the steps. So right before they reach that goal, what is the thing that they've done? Right.
Oh, I love that.
So what's the step right before they reach that goal? And then what's the step that they do right before that? And then after you work through steps, start thinking about the actual activities. And this is how you create something that is action-based, right? Adults learning online don't want your fluff, right? They don't want like hours of video of you talking about how you went through this and how you went through that. They want to know what to do to be able to reach the goals that they came to you for. Mm-hmm. People sign up for any learning experience, whether that's university, community college, a course they bought off the internet, because they want to change something. And if you're not going to help them get that change, then they're going to, like, they're not going to give you good referrals. They're not going to come back and buy other things from you. They're not going to give you testimonials. Worst case, they ask for a refund, which is expensive. There's fees associated with asking for refunds. And so really focusing on the doing before you start with, well, what do I want them to know? What you want them to know should always support the actions that you want them to take.
I love that because, yes, I'm just going to say amen to that at all, because it really, you have to find their pain point. And I knew this coach, actually, I paid him as well, and they haven't even created the course yet. So they sold, and let me tell you, I mean, imagine 5,000 people packed into this room. They sold, I would say, probably 80% of that room, a $25,000 program, right?
Wow.
Program didn't exist. So they spent, after this convention, they spent the next 30 days creating the course, and they were just, what is that Catch Me If You Can guy that he was able to teach at BYU where I grew up? Where I went, but he taught, and they're like, how did you do it? He goes, I just was a chapter ahead. And the same thing with the course. Don't spend all your time creating the course and then launching, because if you create the course and it's something nobody wants, how much time have you wasted? So I love to talk about that you have to make sure people want it first. And there's one that I'm doing right now that I'm going through it with her. And so obviously I'm not really charging her much, like if you want real estate, let me know. But I'm just going through it with her. And I said, look, it's a flagship. And so I really just want to make sure it works, but I'm going to make sure that you get your money back, and I will stay with you till the very end. And so it's those type of things that, would you agree, like in the beginning, maybe trying it out for a little bit first to see if it's even.
Oh, absolutely. I highly recommend doing a beta test. No matter how confident you are in in what how well what you think you've done is going to do and get results, always run a beta test, because when you price something and definitely charge for it, don't do it for free, because like you said, skin in the game, right? Just steep discount is also good. But when you give that steep discount, they're more likely to give you feedback. And the feedback is gold in terms of what's going to make it something that other people can also complete. And so there's less for you to do the next round, right? Some of those things, I don't believe in true evergreen, but some of those things can be like videos that you don't record again and that you don't revisit again for maybe another couple years, depending on what it is. But that feedback is super valuable. And always run a beta test.
And they'll show up if they paid for it. So
I
know a lot of people, they said, well, I taught, I think it was 10 or 15 people for free just to make sure it works. And they got to show up. And if they pay you something, first of all, you're covering your time, maybe not all of it. But they will show up and they'll finish because there's something better for them. And they feel valued.
And sometimes you will get folks, like I'm one of them, right? Like I will do something that is free and I am there till the end. That's just like my personality and what I do. And so there are people that will do that. But the thing that you haven't validated when you do a beta test for free is whether or not people will actually pay for it. And that is often like the critical piece when someone doesn't charge for their beta and they turn around and try to sell it the next time, and then the launch, or however it is, the door opening, whatever they're calling it, flops. That's often the case. It's because they didn't actually validate whether or not someone would pay money for the change that they're offering.
Have you ever had one where they charge, whatever? Like I had one ridiculous amount, but he offered, if you do these things, then I will give you your check back. Have you ever heard of that with people?
I have heard of that. And the few people that I know that have done that, it worked well. And I've known folks that did that both as the course creator, but also as a student in a program like that. But I feel like you also have to be very careful, and it depends on what it is you're teaching, whether or not, that model is useful, because you can guarantee some results, right? You can guarantee that they'll reach the goal, but that goal is also going to be slightly different for different people. depending on how they come to you, right?
Yeah,
So,
no, it's true. All right. So, I love how you talked about how you start it. How do you fix it if it's not working right? And how do you dissect it to see where the broken cog is? You
yeah. I I have a freebie for that, but I typically look for three things. I look to see if it's clear, if it's completable, and if it's accessible. So, completability is often one of the top things that people miss, and the why behind why you're having them do, like the purpose for everything you're having them do,
Mhm.
is often the missing cog, right? So, in adult learning, if they're not emotionally invested
Mhm.
and don't see the real life application to getting to the goal and how that's going to improve XYZ in their lives, then they're less likely to actually complete things. Right? I mean, a lot of it is emotional investment, but it is also about making those clear connections, because otherwise it's going to feel like busy work. Like, I'm sure everybody that's listening has had experience with something that felt like busy work. And a good chunk of that time, it's because you didn't know the reason why you were being asked to do the thing, right? Adults are typically logical. And if you explain, this is going to help you do this thing, we're doing it in a small piece so you don't get overwhelmed, then it's less likely to feel like a pointless exercise. You want to make sure that everything has a very clear connection to the overall, like if we think about it as a learning journey, everything ties together so that when they get to the end, they can look back and literally see the steps that they took and can't imagine having not done one of those steps.
Two types of people when they make decisions. You've got your emotional and you've got your logical. So you mentioned the logical. Do you feel like when you're creating a course, because when you're selling your course, you start with the emotional side, you're either going to take them from a place of pain or you're going to take them to a place of heaven, right?
Mm-hmm,
Pleasure.
mm-hmm.
It's pleasure and pain are the two things. So when you're creating a course, how do you create that? Do you still need to keep the pleasures part of it in play, or is it more of take away from the pain?
I think that's dependent on what you're teaching and which one is more effective, and also who your learner is, right? Different groups are going to respond differently, but I think one course can talk about it in the same or in both of those different ways. Like, one course can talk about both things. So when we're talking about making sure that we're including the pleasure pieces, having quick wins, no matter, even if you're talking about it as pain, having wins that are easy to get to is a really important part of any course, no matter what you're teaching. And there are going to be bits and pieces of probably almost any course that are just going to be painful to get. Learning isn't easy. And I think like that is something we don't talk about enough. Like, there should be enough challenge in it that it feels worthwhile to do, but not so challenging that it feels impossible. And that can be kind of a hard balance
Yeah,
to
that's true.
find.
I am taking a course right now, and I promise myself 15 minutes a day, right? And 15 minutes is better than nothing.
Yeah.
It needs to be more. But I just looked at it today. There's a new module, and there's 43 episodes, and each one is between 15 and 25 minutes per episode. And I'm thinking, okay, that's a lot. And I mean, there's 163 total, but in this specific module, there's 43. And if I'm only taking 15 minutes every single day, I am never going to, it's going to be a long time to get through. And I'm like, okay. But my point is, like, it's a lot and it can feel overwhelming. And so me as a student is like, oh my gosh, I only have 15 minutes to give a day. This is going to take me over a month to get through this module. And then how long is the course? It's a 6-month course that I only have access to. Like, am I ever going to get through the whole thing in time? And so I
Yeah.
think that, as you're creating the course, do you help people kind of think about those things? Like, let's backtrack this. How
Mhm.
are you giving it a year? Is it only a 90-day program? And yet you
Yeah.
have 6 months worth of material? Like, How do you help people with that?
We start by breaking down all of the goal. Like the goals really can be a driving force. And one of the things that I do with my clients is go from the topic that they have. Like I'm going to have a course on email marketing, right? And then we walk through the 5 whys as a tool to actually get to the core of the problem. And sometimes there's more than one core of the problem.
Yeah.
And sometimes that means it should be multiple courses. Or it's something that if they want to have something bigger where it's all part of the same course, then they should have access for a year or more, or like lifetime access is a thing that people do. But if you're going to do something like that, you want to make sure that there is enough support for when they get stuck. Like for your, in your case, so I'm going to go back to your 15 minutes a day, 40, that made my eye twitch. So even if you watched all of those videos on 2 times speed, which I highly recommend, that's still going to take you a fast. That's true. I think most people can't watch mine. I'm like 100 because Zoom will now give you how fast you talk, and I talk too fast. And so I apologize to everyone listening. But when you are looking at something like that or designing something like that, you should have if you need to skip. Like if you need to skip something this week,
I love that.
like have pathways through the course for the person who only has this much time, who's taking care of kids and taking care of parents and taking care of whatever. You should have levels of this is the bare minimum. You want to go extra? This is your next step to go extra. You are all 100% committed to this because it's a good time in your life to do this for 10 hours a week, then this is your path. I also am a firm believer in pathways back, right? Especially if it's a bigger program, having a method for if they fall off, right? So you're doing your 15 minutes a week, but like the whole house comes down with a stomach bug next week. I'm going to bet that you will not be doing any minutes of any day next week. And so having, contingency plans for the fact that you're teaching adulting adults, like they have lives, and those lives are and should be more important than your course. Sometimes it's easy to forget that it's not actually about you, that it's about the people that you're trying to help.
I just love that you do this because I'm serious. I have probably bought, I'm not even going to admit on camera how many courses, and some I get through, and others like I buy for my kids. And hey, kids, instead of you playing all these video games, you want to learn how to do videos? Let's talk about that. Because they're like, can we do a YouTube channel? And so it's like, well, here's how I just bought you the stuff. So let's go through it. And I can't tell you how many, like one course I bought for my husband, I won't even tell you how much. It was ridiculous how much it was. And he never even opened it. And I mean, we're talking tens of thousands of dollars. I'm like, I don't have time for this. You have to, I promise. And so I love that you're teaching this because how many courses, there's some really good ones out there and there's some really horrible ones. And I see a lot of courses on, like you talk about email marketing or how to do video, or how to do this. There are very few people that I've seen that talk about the course creation and that component of it.
Yeah. So yeah, of course. I mean, I feel like this is, I spent all that time as an instructional designer and getting all those certifications and studying to learn how adults learn online. And my dissertation was on retention in online writing classes. And so it really has just, of course I ended up here. There's less red tape in the online business world. And I feel like that lets us be more creative in how everything doesn't have to be a video followed by maybe a short activity or hours worth of video content. Like audio courses are a thing. If you don't have to show them, then don't make it a video.
That's a good point. I do the course I'm taking. He has this, you can download it for your MP3 or whatever. Me, but you know what I'm saying? So he does, because nothing's necessary on video for this class. It's killing me. So with how you do it, like, have you ever had somebody that you've helped where they give you their idea and you're like, let's come up with something else? Or can you make anything work?
So far, I've been able to make anything work, but if my gut says, ooh, maybe not, then I usually will ask, how many people did you ask if they would buy a course on XYZ? Like before we even get into, like I have everybody make a course map, right? And before we even get into what are the goals and what's the core problem, let's make sure that this is a topic that people are interested in, because validating early and often and targeted, right? Like a lot of the market research out there is I don't need to know the name of your dog. I don't need to know how many kids you have. I need to know if you're a caregiver,
Mhm.
of anybody. Like that tells me how much time you have, and
Yeah.
I can design based on that. But if they haven't asked enough people that are not friends and family if they will buy it, then that's a step that I make them go do. And then sometimes we do have to tweak things. I haven't ever had to like toss something out completely,
Okay.
but tweaking sometimes has to happen.
And do you create the course for them or do you give them the framework?
There are certain things I can do. Like I can take whatever activity ideas they have and I can put them into something that makes sense and the instructions are clear. So it's more of like a done with and for
Okay.
you. I think especially today, kind of the faceless AI voices in courses, people just don't trust them, sometimes with good reason. So there are going to be things, and I'm also not the expert in the topic that you're trying to teach. I
Yeah.
am the learning expert, and so I can take what you're teaching
Mm.
and make it into something, but it's usually got to be, you know, done with and for you. Dwiffy, I call it
Yeah.
Dwiffy.
Obviously, you can't do the content, but
Yeah.
the framework, yeah. And I gotta say, ChatGPT is a huge help because if you're like, okay, I want to
Oh
create
yeah,
a course about this and I need it to include these things, it's a great starting point.
it is.
Um,
Yeah.
not don't take the whole thing and create it, but it's a great starting point. Would you agree?
I do agree. I have asked it to act as an instructional designer, and it still hasn't given me anything that I could like just take and use as is. But it is a great starting point, and I actually really like it as an assistant. And
Mhm.
so, like in all of my materials and all of my guides and in my membership, I've got things where, do you need an AI assist for this? And then I give prompts for like taking the step in the activity that you're supposed to be doing and letting AI help you with it, right? So keeping the machine in the loop as opposed to the human in the loop
I love that.
in order to create good courses.
So
I
how,
didn't coin those phrases.
yeah, how are you finding your clients?
I am getting clients through a lot of referrals and doing a lot of podcast guesting, but also summits and just really kind of doing referral networking as my way to get clients, because you have to trust me. You
Yeah.
have to trust that I know what I'm doing and that we're going to do it different, because different is better in terms of the way courses have been taught, at least in the online
Yeah.
business
Mhm.
industry. And it's not like it's on purpose,
Mhm.
right? That's something I like to make pretty clear. I don't think people are trying to swindle other people in general, but if you haven't been trained to be a teacher, you often teach the way that you were taught. And so if you took a course and it was just a bunch of videos, then that's typically the way somebody else would teach, because
Mhm.
they think that's how it's supposed to be done.
And then,
Um,
yeah,
they just don't know.
different. Yeah, no, that's true. Okay, so let's switch gears real quick because I can't believe we're almost out of time. But as a mother, I want you to imagine yourself sitting on a park bench, and this first time young woman comes and sits next to you, and she's ready to pop anytime. What is one piece of unsolicited advice that you would give her as a mom trying to navigate raising their children in this world?
Would not give unsolicited advice.
I know, but you're going to. You're going to be that
Okay.
old grandma saying,
Okay.
honey, let
I
me tell you a story.
will. um, just when you think you've got a handle on it, it's going to change. And that's probably applicable to most life things, but for me, it's been especially true with kids. Just when I'm like, oh yeah, I'm in a groove, I've got this under control, something changes about my kids. Like suddenly they don't like spaghetti or, whatever that change happens to be. And so you just learning to adapt to the changes is probably, that's what I would tell her.
And embrace it, because that's how you both
Yeah.
grow. If you try to keep them.
Exactly.
I think my hardest thing is my youngest is 10, and I don't know, she went from like 6 years old to 10 really, really fast. Maturity
My
level,
youngest is 10.
and she used to be like this cute little ball of fire, and now she's growing up and she has her own thoughts and her own opinions, and I'm like, this is sad to me, like my baby. And so it's change is something that we need to embrace, and that's okay. So
Yeah. And I think if we're embracing it, it also means we're paying attention to it. Because like you said, it can go like that. And everybody says it can go like that. But if you are paying attention and embracing the changes, it means that you're there for them.
Right.
And that's something that you can hold on to even when you still feel like, well, that 4 years went like that, but you're there and feeling the changes. And so you were there for them, even if it did go really fast.
Yeah, for me, my advice today would be that it goes so fast. And I think for me, I'm having a hard time. Like my second to youngest, she's entering junior high now. And like my first four are gone. They've flown the coop. They keep coming back for feeding, I guess. But, for the most part, and time is so short. And I'm really struggling with, okay, I have all these jobs and all these companies I'm trying to juggle, but in reality, what I really want to do right now is just be a mom. So having that conversation with my husband, like, you know what, I'm not going to get this time back ever. And so I really do want to be a mom, and there is a season for everything. And so if I don't sell as many homes, or if I don't have as many coaching programs, I'm okay with that, because I will never have this time again. And so trying to come to terms with and being honest with yourself. And so just embracing the time and being true to yourself, I think. So, okay. So if our listeners wanted to find you, how would they do that?
They could find me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty easy to find. I am the only Catrina with a C Mitchum on there, at least to my knowledge.
Unbreakable Moms, writing a course and becoming a coach can be very, very fun and rewarding to you, but there is a way that you can do it. And Catrina really has a way. And so I highly recommend that you reach out to her and see what she has to offer, so that you can be successful and you don't spend all this time before the launch only for the launch to peter out and not work. So go out and make it a great day. And again, if you like it, please share and subscribe. Beautiful moms, remember, you are unbreakable. Keep illuminating the world with your strength, pursuing your dreams, and reveling in the splendor of motherhood. This is Charisse Walker, bidding you farewell for now. Stay tuned for more empowering conversations on the next episode of the Unbreakable Mompreneurs podcast. Until then, keep shining bright. Signing off with love, Charisse Walker.